Sacrifice is the newest Netflix original by Derren Brown, who is a UK mental illusionist. It's not the first time I have discussed something of his on my channel, but seeing as I watched this last night, I knew I had to make a review on it. So let's just get into it.
I'm Derren Brown. For the last 20 years, I've performed as a psychological illusionist. Now, in these aggressively divided times, I want to try and create a hero. Someone who will willingly lay down their life for a complete stranger.
There is absolutely an immigration problem in the United States. I say kick them out. I say kick them all out.
It's these strongly held views that make Phil the perfect subject for this experiment. Phil believes he's taking part in a documentary. We're going to be placing electrodes on the base of your index finger. In fact, he is the unsuspecting star at the center of an elaborate psychological experiment.
It's like a battle in my head. It's too much, yeah.
Based entirely around him and his beliefs.
I've always kind of been more biased towards white people, but again, I'm not racist. That's just how I was brought up.
I don't know at this point whether or not, when it comes down to it, that he'll step out in front of a gun and take a bullet.
It's been an experience that I can't even begin to explain how much it's going to change me moving forward.
Are you legal?
Waiting on, man.
Sacrifice follows a man called Phil, an American who is also half British, who has very strong political views about the migrant crisis in America. He says he's not racist, but has always been more biased towards white people, and he does not agree with immigrants coming to the USA. He says many times in the show to kick them out and that this is not their effing country, and though that view from America especially is sadly very common, it's not much of a shock to see it on a TV show, but it's still very harrowing to witness. So under the skies of a new scientific breakthrough, Derren has a whole range of applicants. He does questions and tests and DNA samples with them and eventually narrows it down to Phil. He has no idea the final outcome of his selection, and he believes it's just to test a microchip. And a microchip is placed in the back of his neck, and he's under the idea that it's being controlled by an app called Turbine, which is a fake app that Derren has developed with scientists.
Feel the change in your body as you step forward. Feel how that changes. Each time you do this, it gets more powerful. Each time you hear that sound.
Basically, it provides meditation. Phil listens to it through headphones, which is recordings of Derren's voice. Basically, it's the placebo effect, which is very common in medical treatment, where the belief that something is working is more powerful than actual medication. And the app provides sound triggers, which Derren calls classical conditioning, which he has used in many of his TV shows before. The most notable one I can think of is probably The Heist. Derren explains through heroism comes the fear and of pain, which is common. So to combat this, Derren has provided a second trigger, which is called a head bump, which is kind of just like that. He tells Phil when he feels afraid to just bump his head to provoke heroism, but to get rid of the fear of being a hero and the fear of getting hurt, which is very important for the final step. The final step being, will Phil take a bullet for a complete stranger? Phil admitted after receiving his DNA sample that his perception of the world was, and especially some parts of it like Mexico and Syria, etc., were in a not so positive light. So afterwards, after doing that stranger test, he says that he will look at things differently and that he shouldn't essentially not judge a book by its cover, and that though his upbringing was very white and, you know, he, not a racist upbringing, but an upbringing that told him that people from like Mexico or Syria aren't good people, that they're secondary citizens, for example. And for him to say that he's gonna try and change his view is almost like a breakthrough. Phil, at the start of this show, was very against immigrants, and in the space of almost an hour has completely changed that and has taken a bullet for a complete stranger, an immigrant. But not to worry, Derren soon appears and explains to him everything. He tells him that it's fake blood, that the jacket had padding so he wouldn't actually get shot, that the microchip is fake, the whole preface of the show being like about science and brain controlling with that chip in his neck isn't real, and everything that he decided, everything he stepped forward to do, was all down to him. Derren wasn't controlling him. Every decision he made was his. Every choice he made was his. And it was his choice to protect a stranger. Derren explains at the start of the show that current times in this society, people are very divided. There are people who are very, very racist and they absolutely despise immigrants. They do not want them in their country, and others are trying to help immigrants. It's a very divided time. But this show isn't... The purpose of the show isn't to automatically change someone's views of politics or the migrant crisis. It's to provoke kindness. Using scenarios and basically using Phil and his choices, he has turned him around completely from a man who doesn't agree with them to risking his life and risking death to save someone he doesn't even know. It's powerful, it's beautiful, it's amazing what Derren can do. Even though it technically wasn't him, it was Phil. So the two of them together have made this happen in a very divided time, especially in America where Phil is from. It's shown that through acts of kindness we can cooperate as a society, and we don't have to be divided regardless of our views of society or politics. That as humans we can be as one. I was so impressed and in awe of the ending of the show, and throughout all of it I love Derren and I love what he does with all his shows, and I've watched so many of his TV shows over and over again because I just love it so much, and every single time I get chills and I get shocked, even though I know what's going to happen. When it does happen I'm like, oh my god. And this show, Sacrifice, is no different. I'm absolutely in love with it. I will definitely be watching it again. It's just the final word, like, people don't have to have this division, that we can be at peace through kindness. It's amazing, and it's really, really good that Derren has challenged it. Like, it's 2018 with Donald Trump and everything, and the whole immigrant crisis. It's a very touchy subject, like, even to discuss. Like, even discussing it now on this video, I feel I should be cautious of what I'm trying to say. But Derren isn't afraid of that. At least it doesn't seem like he is. And for him to come out with this show right now, well, actually it was released October 19th, but you know what I mean. To do it in this time is absolutely amazing. I give Sacrifice an absolute 10 out of 10. I will be watching again, like I said. I love it. I love Derren. And thank you, Derren, who probably isn't watching this, for making this. And thank you, Phil, for taking part, and everyone involved. I love it so much. And thank you, viewer, for watching this. If you made it this far, I'm anticipating it's a bit long because, my videos always are. If you want to check out my last Derren review, which was on Miracle of Faith or Fiction, it will be linked below for you. And if you want to, you can subscribe and all that stuff like that. And I will see you next time.